Hi guys, welcome in. If you are new here, I am Bunny. I am a self-taught programmer, stay-at-home mom trying to break into tech within the next year. So let's see how that goes. If you're returning, thanks so much for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. Today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking user input for Minesweeper and then also placing the bombs. So how I'm approaching this is basically we take the user's first coordinate and then we place the bombs because I don't know, I've never experienced where I've clicked the bomb the first move. There are people that have claimed that they have, but it's never happened to me. And when I Googled it previously, it said that it was not possible. So that is how I'm approaching it. And we also want to clean up the user input in case they don't input it in a standard fashion. And we're also going to take into account the flags as well for user inputs. So that's what we're going to be working on today. And yeah, let's get into it. We're gonna go straight to explaining it on Excalibur, and then we will go on to writing the code. Okay, so let's talk about user input. Basically, we want to take into account that the user may input the coordinates different ways. So they could add a comma, they could not have a comma, they could have a comma with no space. If they're placing a flag, they could do X colon and then the coordinates, or they could even do a coordinate with 3 comma 4 with the parentheses. So we want to take that into account, and how we're going to do that is one, the first thing we have to be aware of is they could put lowercase versus uppercase. We don't know. So first things first, we want to change user input to we want to change user input to uppercase. Next, we want to take into account the punctuation. We would use string.punctuation to give us all of the possible punctuation available. And then we would also use make trans. And I keep saying we. Okay, I would use. Again, I'm not an educational channel. This is just me building Minesweeper, technically rebuilding it, seeing how I approach it differently versus how I approached it the first time. So I would change, I would use make trans to create a lookup table, and then I would then use translate to change all of the punctuation in that table, in that lookup table that shows up in my user input to be white space. So we would take into account the punctuation, um, and change those to white spaces. Okay, and then from there, we also want to make sure that it is going to be integers, because once we remove the punctuation, change it into white spaces, it becomes a string. So the numbers that we were given actually becomes a string, and we have to change them back to ints. So we have to take into account, check if the user is placing a flag or not. If they are not, we want to check if length of input is 2. If so, then we would change the items in list. Oh yeah, and then change white spaces And then from here, we would split the string. I'm feeling like that might be redundant, but I've already worked this out and I've already tested it. We're just rewriting it for this recording. So I will go back and test it out again later and maybe make some changes to my code as we go along. But then we would change the items in the list to uh, to int because they should be strings currently. Here we would want, I want to do a try and accept because let's say the user inputs 3 comma f or 3 comma x, right? If they do that, the mapping won't work. So we would want to do if not valid move, then notify user. Okay. We also want to take into account if they are placing a flag. If check if they are placing a flag. If so, change the flag flag change the flag variable to true. And then finally, if not a valid move, let user know. Okay, so how I would approach doing the mines is I would actually loop through while the number of mines that are on the board is more than the length of the mines placed. So the mines placed is a set again. And then while that's the case, we would take a random number from rows and random number from columns and create a tuple from that. Okay. We would check if the tuple is in the set already and if it is not the user input. Okay, so if it is the user input, obviously we're not going to add it. If it's in the set, obviously we can't add it. If not, then we would add tuple to the set. And then from there, we would change our flag. Flag place. Although, thinking about that, we don't need this either because number of mines, so we don't need this flag being placed. So that's how I would approach this, and we're going to get into the code right now. Also, I'm whispering now. My baby woke up, well, technically, toddler in between my takes, so hope I haven't forgotten anything. Um, I'm trying to be quiet for her. So apologies. Okay, so we're going to change this to upper. Okay, and then what we're going to want to do is we're going to have self dot user move. Going to take into account the punctuation. Oh, we have to import string too. So not we, me again, not an educational channel. uh, import string and random. So we're going to do user move equals self dot user move dot translate string dot make trans, which would go to string dot punctuation, and then from there we would change that to length of the string punctuation. We also want to split it into a string. Again, don't know if this is the best way to go about it. However, this is how I approached it. Uh, okay, so now we are going to check if length of self.userMove equals 2. We're going to try, we're going to have self.userMove equals couple of map int self.userMove. Okay, and then accept value error print please input a valid coordinate. Then that's if not valid. So now we also are going to, so if the user move is length of user move is 2. If it is not, if or self.user move 0 equals x, and again we changed it to uppercase, we would want to change self dot place flag equals false. We would want to change self dot place flag equals true. I'm also going to pop this where then we're going to self dot user move dot pop. And that should actually be a 0 because that should be the index of it. Thinking about this, I'm going to actually move this up here, and basically we're going to remove this. We're going to go flag equals here. So then we're going to pop this if length of user move is 2 because after we've popped this, this should be. And then from here, we're going to do if flag. We're going to do, we're just going to do self if flag. We're going to do self dot place flag equals true. We're going to also add up here flag equals none. So then accept value error, please input then else print that is not a valid move. So let's test this really quick. So if we were to do this, we are going to do xd3, please input valid coordinates. Okay, so then we're going to do xd, that is not a valid move. And then we're going to do SD, please input a valid coordinate. Perfect. Okay. I think this can be cleaned up, but I kind of detoured off of what I was originally going to do, so I'll have to clean that up off the video. Right now, this will be fine. Again, not an educational channel, so this is a work in progress, guys. This is a work in progress. Okay, so now we're going to do define place mines self, and then we're going to do while called do self dot mine mines equals 10, and we're also going to do self dot mine location set. Okay, so while self dot mines is greater than length of self dot mine location, we're going to do take a random number. So we're going to do mine equals random dot choice, and then we're going to do that for the range of self dot board size 0. And here's what I did forget to mention, +1, because we actually did add +1 to the board size so that we could have the coordinate, the numbers listed. So if we don't want a 0, basically we would take the range, which would be 0 to 8. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then if we add 1, it'll give us within our grid. Again, I'm saying us, but again, don't do as I say, because I am figuring things out. Random choice, range range self dot board size. Oh my gosh, what happened? Self dot board size. I think something happened, but that's okay. 1 and then +1. Okay, and then what we're going to do is if mine in self dot, or if mine not in self dot mine location. Why did my something happen and mine does not equal self dot user input? We are going to add self dot mine location dot add mine. Okay, and then we are going to print. We're going to print self dot mine location. Okay, so we are going to run this and see if we have 3, 4. Oops. Don't do it up there. Okay, there was no errors, but I guess it would help if self dot place lines. Okay, and then we're going to also print, just so we can see this, print self dot user move. We're gonna print self dot mine locations. Okay, so we're going to go 3, 4. That didn't work. Minesweeper has no attribute user input. Oh wait, why? Where's the user? Oh, user move. User move. Interesting. I don't know why that. No. So let's do x3, 4. Perfect. And then we have the list of mines right down here. See. So that's the list of mines, or set of mines rather. And then I just tested that. And then if we were to run this again, oh, as you can see, I did place a flag. So X and then 2, 6. And then perfect. So right here we have so anyway, that's all for today. For the move, cleaning up the input, and then placing the mines. So next time we are going to tackle, or I am going to tackle, checking the moves. I'm going to go about this differently than I went about it the first time. The first time I did recursion, but this time I was talking to some community members and they recommended that I try and use a deck. So we're gonna see how that works.